Yesterday I spent the morning at the Jesuit retreat house in Louisville on Lake Dallas. And I go as often as I can. They have once a month, they call it Saturdays of Reflection, where one of the Jesuit priests will give a talk, and then we have a time of reflection, quiet, and we have discussion. And then they'll do another talk, and then we have quiet time and more discussion. Then we celebrate Mass. And I was raised Catholic, and I still have an affinity for the Mass and for the ritual, and I enjoy being in a place where people are standing and professing their faith, and their voices are joined together in prayer. And so it's always a wonderful experience for me, and I love absolutely being on Lake Dallas and being able to go out. They have hammocks and chairs out by the water, so you can just sit and reflect or go in the chapel and have quiet time. The place is very, very quiet and beautiful. Yesterday we talked about the sacrament of confession, which is now called the sacrament of reconciliation. And I remember as a little girl going to confession and getting in the little box, and it has a curtain, and the priest is sitting behind a screen and listening to us profess our sins. And, I think at that age, when you're very young, you don't quite grasp what that is. And, I remember going in and saying, okay, I may have lied 5 times, or I thought bad things about my sister, or, the things that we consider sins. And that whole process, that sacrament has evolved over the decades, over many, many decades. And actually it's evolved over centuries, as he was explaining. But this concept of confession and reconciliation and sin, and we talk about it. Our definition of sin is that it's an acronym, self-imposed nonsense, that it is missing the mark, that it is when we are out of alignment with our divine beingness, out of alignment with our divinity, with what is part of the all good, which is the all good, that is sin, and that we need not, since in unity we don't believe in a God, as Pete was reading about, that is looking for retribution, is here to punish us when we do things wrong. But so many of us have grown up with that. Probably no matter what faith tradition you grew up in, and those things can stick with us throughout our lives, where we judge ourselves as sinners, as not doing right, as doing wrong, as being less than and unworthy of God. And one of the things that came up in our discussion, we were all divided up in groups of 3, was that a lot of us don't feel worthy of mercy. The word mercy came up a lot, that we don't feel worthy of what I call the all good, and this state of joy that Neale Donald Walsch was writing about in this book, this constant state of joy and goodness that is ours always, that we are always in this state of grace. Grace is not something we are given. It is the kingdom of heaven. It is ours. It is us. It is us. And yet, we think because we do things that we're not proud of, when we disappoint ourselves, when we hurt somebody else, when we commit some kind of transgression, that we are not good. That we are separated from God. That we are separated from God. In fact, one gentleman was explaining it. He said it had been explained to him that sinning is like, there's this, if we're attached to like a tether and God is at the top with the tether, that when we sin, the tether gets cut. and we fall away from God. And we fall away. And that's what it might feel like, right? It might feel like you're in darkness. It might feel like there's no goodness. It might feel like we are bad, that we're bad people. And we have all kinds of judgments about what we are in those moments. Not what we have done, but what we are. What we are. In Unity and New Thought, we believe that whatever you do, that doesn't change what you are. You are still a divine being. You are still divinity. You are still all love because we're made in the image and likeness of God. Your beingness does not change no matter what you do. Your beingness does not change no matter what you do. A woman on death row who has murdered her children is still a divine being. Still a divine being. But she acted outside of her divinity. She did something that is totally out of alignment with who and what she is at the core of her beingness. And that concept is hard to grasp, especially when it comes to ourselves. And we grapple with that. One of the young women that was in my group, as we were discussing, she said, most of the sins I commit, nobody knows about but me. She said, nobody knows. And yet she wonders if she's worthy of God's mercy and forgiveness. And how many of us have judged ourselves based upon what we have done? One of the things that kind of made my head implode, well, there were many things in the Course in Miracles that make my head implode, but one of them was that concept that no one can do you, there is no wrong, there is no crime, because you can't be hurt. Everything is done, everything is a cry for love. Everything is a cry for love. Everything is a cry for love. And as divine beings, we can't be hurt. You could be hurt if you choose to be hurt. But you can't be hurt because you are divine, infinitely divine. We're made in the image and likeness of God, who is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. And we are made in that image and likeness. God cannot be hurt or disappointed. There's no person or entity sitting somewhere saying, oh my God, Kim did this. I'm so disappointed. And waiting for the time when he can just go, don't you do that again. Oh my God, she did it again. That girl. And yet, some of us visualize that, or that concept's in our head, that there's a being somewhere that's deeply disappointed in us. And is maybe deciding, now that you've done this thing 4 or 5 times, whether or not you're going to be forgiven, or when you die, maybe you need to, wallow in purgatory for a while before you can go to heaven. To atone. So this word mercy really got to me in my thinking. Oh, books are over here. Mercy, actually, the root of the word actually comes from the word wages or price. I guess that's where the word mercenary comes from. In New Thought, in metaphysical terms, mercy is a Christ-like treatment toward the suffering. The important point in desiring to be merciful is righteous adjustment, as this results in true overcoming. And it defines adjustment as the rearrangement of thoughts according to the divine order of the Christ mind, a bringing of man's consciousness into exact correspondence with God's perfect harmony or heaven. And from Luke chapter 3, verse 5, and the crooked shall become straight, and the rough ways smooth. So really, if there's any mercy to be bestowed, since there's no entity up there giving you mercy because you sinned, or giving you mercy because you sinned, you did something wrong, that we need to be merciful to ourselves, that we have compassion for ourselves, that we stop judging ourselves. We extend mercy to each other, perhaps. I think this world would be a lot more peaceful if we were more merciful towards each other, more patient, more compassionate, more forgiving. And that really, this thing about mercy is adjusting your thoughts back to divine beingness. Getting back to who and what you are. We talk about that all the time. You've done something to hurt somebody or to hurt yourself. And before you start wallowing and feeling shame and pity and judging yourself as something less than perfect in your divine beingness, that you get back to who and what you are. Yes, I am divine. I made a mistake, and yet I am divine. I missed the mark in this moment. And as I read from that Conversations with God book, communion with God, that all we have to do is reaffirm who we are, that we are always perfect. We are always perfect. And the problem is we judge ourselves as something else. We judge ourselves as something else. We're doing this self-flogging, hitting ourselves with a cat o' nine tails, wearing the proverbial hair shirt, kicking ourselves. And we spend all this time wallowing in darkness and judging ourselves, when we could just flip the switch and go back to reminding ourselves that we are divine beingness. What we focus on grows. So if you're focusing on what you deem as bad within yourself, then that your realization of that only grows. Your thinking about that only grows. So if you flip that switch and focus on your divine beingness, then that gets expanded. Amplify your strengths, not your weaknesses. Get far more with honey than you do with vinegar. I spent so much time in my life flogging myself. And that reading says you can die in that moment to that and choose something else. Say in that moment, I'm no longer that. I may have judged that, but I'm not going to affirm that anymore. I am now this. I am love. I am one with God. All goodness is mine. I am all goodness. And I'm going to live from that in this moment and then the next moment, and then the next moment. You only have to worry about this moment right here. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, now I got to be good for the rest of my days, and I'm not going to do this anymore, and then worry about that, and then you spend time spiraling about that. How am I ever going to do that? How am I going to show up to every family reunion as peace and love and togetherness? You only have to worry about this moment in the get-together and show up in that moment as love with that particular relative. And then you get to spend another moment with your big head brother and try to be loved there and not judge him as your big head brother. And then in the next moment, you can go deal with somebody else and be love in that moment. You don't have to deal with this moment, and affirm that you are love in this moment. In this moment. Adjust your thoughts. Adjust your thinking. Choose what you want and who you are. You know who you are. And we say we do. Are you living it? Fifth principle, fifth unity principle. It's not enough to know truth. You have to live truth. And so many of us walk around all day, oh, we're all one, and we're love, and you're love, and I'm love. And then we go home, we flog ourselves for something. So not loving. It's not what that is. So this book is actually about, I think there's 10 illusions that God is presenting to Neale Donald Walsch. And here he's talking about the 7th illusion, the illusion of condemnation. The 7th illusion, the illusion of condemnation, may be used to experience the fact that you are deserving of nothing but praise. This is something that you cannot fathom, for you live so deeply within your illusion of condemnation. If, however, you lived within the heart of praise every moment, you could not experience it. Praise would mean nothing to you. You would not know what it is. The glory of praise is lost when praise is all there. Yet you have taken this awareness to an extreme, taken the illusion of imperfection and condemnation to new levels, where you now actually believe praise to be wrong, especially self-praise. You are not to praise yourself or to notice, much less announce, the glory of who you are, and you must be sparing in your praise of others. Praise, you have concluded, is not good. The illusion of condemnation is also your announcement to you and God that you and God can be damaged. Exactly the opposite is true, of course, but you cannot know this truth nor experience it in the absence of any other reality. And so you have created an alternate reality in which damage is possible and condemnation is proof of it. To repeat, the idea that you or God can be damaged is an illusion. If God is the all in all, and I am, this is God talking, and if God is the most powerful, and I am, and if God is the supreme being, it is true, then God is incapable of being hurt or damaged. And if you are made in the image and likeness of God, and you are, then you cannot be hurt or damaged either. I'll read that again. And if you are made in the image and likeness of God, and you are, then you cannot be hurt or damaged. Condemnation is a device you have created to help you experience the wonder of this by producing a context within which this truth can have meaning. Quote-unquote damage is one of the many lesser illusions that evolve every day from the 10 illusions. The first illusion being that God and you need something is what creates the illusion, that if you don't get what you need, God and you will be injured, hurt, or damaged. This sets up the perfect case for retribution, and this is not a small but a very big illusion. Nothing has captured the imagination of humans more completely than the idea that hell exists, that there is a place in the universe to which God condemns those who have not obeyed his law. Frightening, gruesome pictures of this horrible place appear in the frescoes on the ceilings and walls of churches all over the world. Equally upsetting images adorn the pages of catechism texts and Sunday school booklets given to little children, the better to scare them with. And while good, church-going people have for centuries believed the message that these images send, it happens that the message is false. That is why I inspired Pope John Paul II to indicate to a papal audience at the Vatican in 1999 that, quote, improper use of biblical pictures must not create psychosis or anxiety. The biblical descriptions of hell are symbolic and metaphorical. I inspire the Pope to say that, quote, the inexhaustible fire and the burning over, unquote, the Bible speaks of, indicate the complete frustration and vacuity of life without God. Hell is a state of separation from God, he explained, a state caused not by a punishing of God, but rather self-induced. It is not God's function to administer retribution or to punish anyone, and the Pope made that clear in his audience. Still, the idea of a condemning God has been a useful illusion. It has created a context within which you could experience all manner of things, many aspects of being. Fear, for instance, or forgiveness, compassion, and mercy too. A condemned man understands at the deepest level the expression of mercy. So does the person doing the condemning or the granting of pardon. If you believe somebody's being merciful to you, then you believe they have power over you. It's a lot to embrace, isn't it? Later in that chapter, it talks about that. It's advanced cultures and societies that embrace that and know that they cannot be hurt, that you can't do me any damage no matter what you do to me, because I'm a divine being. And yet we are. We are. Whether you're the transgressor or the one who's being hurt. You are still goodness and light. You are always goodness and light. We got to stop condemning ourselves. There's nothing to be sorry for. All there is to do is to try to hit the mark the next time. In one moment, when you're doing outside, something out of alignment with your divine beingness, in the next moment, you get to choose divine beingness. You get to say that for yourself, that this is what I am, and this is what I will express in this moment. And then you've died to all that other stuff. Leave it behind. Let it go. Let it go. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, you are goodness and light. We are done. I am done with that stuff. I'm done. It is finished. It is finished. And then step into new expression. Die to that, be born anew. And you get to choose that in any moment. Stop flogging yourselves about things that you've done. I have picked up transgressions I have done decades ago and flogged myself again for it. Don't you do it? The thought comes back up. Yeah. Let it be finished. Acknowledge that you are not that thing. You are not the things you do. And stand in your divine beingness and claim something different here in this moment. Don't worry about the next moment. Choose it in this moment. And then you get to be born in every single second. Every single second. Next moment, choose life again. Choose love again. Choose peace again. Next moment, next moment, next moment. It'll come when the moment is there. Just stand here in your divine beingness. Just be the light you are. All that we are is dust from the stars. All that we are is dust from the stars. In more ways than one. Physically, spiritually. That's what you are. That's your work. That's your work. Let's take this in a meditation. Just breathe. It's a lot to wrap your heads around. But your mind doesn't have to grasp this. Your heart does. I want you to tune into your heart space. Not your physical heart. Your heart space that cannot be contained by this physical body. Now I want you to see that space. That energetic heart is light. Your energetic heart. And whatever darkness you have attributed to yourself, I want you to see that light engulfing that darkness and snuffing it out. No matter how long it takes. You may need to do this for several days, several weeks. I want you to see that light circulating through your body. And see that light being so strong and so infused with goodness that it cannot be contained by this body of yours. See it emanating outside of your physical self. And see only light. And if you need to, and you have something in your mind now that is causing you to judge yourself as anything other than light, I want you to say, I was only looking for love. I was looking for love. I was crying for love. I was crying for love. I was crying for love. And if someone has hurt you, no matter how long ago it was, or if it was this morning, I want you to see them and say to yourself, if you can, they were only looking for love. They were only looking for love. And you are divine, and I am divine. You are divine, and I am divine. Just open the door. All you need is to crack open the door to light. And let the all good do the work. See only light. Feel only love. Knowing that the hurt was an illusion. The damage was an illusion. You cannot be damaged, for you are perfect. Surround yourself in goodness. Just continue to let yourself bathe in that light. Open your heart to it, even if just a little bit. And if you're still thinking of someone who's hurt you, to extend that light towards them. Just be willing. It was only a cry for love. I am one with the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the all-loving, the all-present. I am one with God. And I am divine beingness. And just breathe into that. I am divine beingness. There is a force around me, within me, before me, and back of me, above and below me, that shepherds me through this life. That animates me, guards me, nourishes me, animates me. I have all that I need. And in this moment, I die to all that is outside of that goodness. And now I choose love. In all that I am, all that I think, all that I do. This moment, I choose love. And the next moment, I will choose love again. For love has chosen me. Love is me. I am love. Breathe it in. All is well. All is good. All is well. All is good. And so we say yes and thank you to this divine perfection. The divine perfection that is our lives. That is every situation we may grapple with. Divine perfection is every being on this planet. And we choose to see that perfection. We choose to live from it, to live as it. Let's breathe in together. Exhale. We're settled into love and light. That's where we are. That's who we are. That's what we are. Breathe it in. Breathe it out. It is infinite, overflowing, all-encompassing. You cannot be separated from it, for it is you. It is you. It is you. It is you. So this is the new moment. You were born again this moment, right here, right now. Born again. Brilliant lights. Brilliant, brilliant light. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.